Welcome to Home Cook Stories, the podcast that brings flavor and inspiration to your ears. I'm your host, Julia Darling, a working mother with a family of 5 to feed and an insatiable appetite for all things food. Inspired by the life lessons from my mom, I believe food has profound links to our lives, from family recipes that leave a legacy, to the culinary journeys that define our travels, and the food that shapes our culture and lifestyle. Join me on this audio adventure as we dig into delicious topics, bringing more meaning and connectivity to our lives. And yes, we'll definitely work up an appetite. Remember, food isn't just what's on your plate. It helps tell the story of who you are. So wherever you are in this moment, pull up a seat and tune in, because life's too short for bland stories and boring meals. Welcome to Home Cook Stories. I will be honest with you, I was just not feeling the New Year's goals and resolutions this year. And it wasn't for lack of awareness that this was the time of year where we should all be thinking about how we can live and be a happier and healthier version of ourselves in 2026. My social media feed and my email inbox were just inundated with all of these messages for about the past 4 to 6 weeks. But this year, I just didn't care to define those resolutions or to set those official goals. Is that a sign of getting older? Not caring? And not only not caring, but not caring that you don't care? I don't know. It's liberating, really, when you think about it. And not that I don't think there's always room for us to self-improve. I mean, I bought a book on mindfulness over the holiday, and that can be a topic for another day. I just felt like I didn't want to go into the new year thinking about how I could do more or how I could be more. I just wanted to be. We were home for the entire winter break this year, so we took time off of work. We typically are the ones to travel to see family over the holiday. This year, family came to us. The kids were obviously off of school, and so I just wanted to sit in those moments, to wake up at 8 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. in the morning and eat breakfast at 10 if that's what we chose, and just not having to hold ourselves to a defined schedule or defined activities over the course of the last 2 weeks. And so I just wanted to live in that space for a while. And if you really think about it, we can set a goal or hit that reset button any time of year. It doesn't come around just once on January 1st. If you're like me and you celebrate Christmas and have kids in the house, you may be able to relate to what I am about to say. On Christmas morning, I love rushing down the stairs with the kids. I pour myself that first cup of hot coffee and I get snuggled in on the couch or in my chair. And I just love watching their joy and excitement as they tear into their stockings. They're eating candy by 9 o'clock in the morning. To see their faces when they open up a gift and they're so excited because it's been on their Christmas wish list. And then within 30 minutes to an hour, that space is now covered in Christmas wrapping paper and cardboard boxes and just their latest treasures sprawled out all across the floor. And it feels so magical till about mid-afternoon. And then it really starts getting into a place of like overwhelming clutter and disorder and perhaps a couple safety hazards. So there reaches a point when all of that magic just fades away into chaos, and it really supports this feeling of wanting to ring in the new year by getting my space and my home in order so that it can better support us and how I want to feel going into 2026. And this was happening long before the holiday. I just felt this overwhelming sense of needing to declutter and organize my life and our home. So it begs the question of, what if the most transformative thing we could do this year is clear space in the place we live in the most? And that brings us to today's episode. It is a Marie Kondo-style kitchen reset as a way to spark joy. What if your kitchen could help support the way you want to live this year instead of quietly stressing you out? Today, I want to talk about how I took some of Marie Kondo's principles and applied them to my kitchen. And I have to say, we're just a couple weeks in, and the outcome has surprised me. If you're ready to roll up your sleeves and get to work in the kitchen, then settle in and keep listening, because I'm going to jump right into it. Now, truth be told, every room in my house could use a Marie Kondo reset. Over time, you know how it is. Items just randomly get thrown in bedside table drawers, or you push them underneath the bed when you need to do a quick sweep up, and they get put in toy bins. And at that point, I don't care what toy bin they go into. So this year, I wanted to start in the kitchen because usually I'll start upstairs. I'll tackle bedrooms and then bathrooms. But this year, I wanted to start with the kitchen because the kitchen is truly the center of our daily activities, both literally and metaphorically speaking. The kitchen, yes, it's where I'm cooking, but it's also where we are eating together. It's where we're making crafts. We're doing homework there. Maybe I'm reading a book, or we're playing board games with the kids, or the kids are chasing each other around the house in circles. Like, there's so much visual noise in this space that then equates to mental noise over time and stimulation that, especially for someone like me, and if you do as well, I work full time from home, like the visual noise and clutter in the house is ever present. And oftentimes I do a very good job of being able to kind of look past it, skim over it, and not let it stress me out. But there reaches a point in time in which it just amplifies in my mind the disorganization around the entire house. My approach with this kitchen reset and in taking some of the guiding principles from Marie Kondo was not about perfection. I can promise you that. I will not be showing you picture perfect images of my pantry on Instagram because I did not color code my pantry shelves. I did not purchase a label maker in order to clearly distinguish where cereal boxes go versus canned goods. Like, this was more about letting go of what no longer serves us as a family, learning how to decide what stays and what we need to let go of. And ultimately, the goal was reclaiming calm in the most used room of the house. I'll share parts of Marie Kondo's philosophy with you, how I applied that to the kitchen, and my personal experience, kind of noticing what shifted and what surprised me about this process. Let's start kind of with covering the basics. Who is Marie Kondo and what is her book all about? And if you're not familiar with who Marie Kondo is, she's a Japanese organizing and cleaning consultant, and she's the author of the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I bought this book, actually, you'll probably remember it came out several years ago, and I bought it and inevitably tucked it on a bookshelf somewhere, never read it until this past holiday. I finally pulled it out and made a point to try to read it from cover to cover so that I could undertake this kitchen reset. She also has 2 series on Netflix that came out a couple years ago. There's Tidying Up with Marie Kondo and Sparking Joy. So you can go down a whole Kondo rabbit hole if you would like. There's a primary distinction to Marie Kondo's approach to tidiness, though, that I want to mention off the bat. And her approach is what she has dubbed and refers to as the KonMari method. And really what this means is that you are going to tidy by category, not by room. For most of us, I typically tidy by room. I'm tackling the bedroom, I'm tackling the bathrooms or the garage. But the KonMari method wants you to tidy by category. So think in categories of books, clothes, toiletries. And this is a little hard for me, at least, because what I found is that sometimes I have things of the same category, but they're in different spaces throughout my home. For example, I have a medicine cabinet up in my bathroom, and yet I have a box of Band-Aids, cough drops, a thermometer, etc. in the kitchen cabinet with our water bottles. Why? I'm not sure, but inevitably, I've pulled them down from the medicine cabinet, I'm sure, to administer a Band-Aid on somebody's cut or bruise that they got, and then just tucked it away in the kitchen cabinet and never brought it back up to its proper place. But the point here is to put it all together so that you can look at it all together at one time and see the breadth of what you have. Then you will keep only what sparks joy and dispose of the rest, thanking each of those items before letting them go. The disclaimer that I want to make at this point is that I loosely applied the KonMari method to tidying my kitchen. I do not consider myself to be a KonMari expert. I probably only remembered half of the details of what she talked about in her book. So I took what resonated with me and what I felt like I could do. And I think that's more or less how many of us probably approach a lot of these kind of self-help type things, right? Take what speaks to you and apply it in a way that fits your lifestyle and your needs. What I also like about the KonMari method and tidying up is that it isn't minimalism for minimalism's sake. The takeaway that I got from this was that it wasn't about how you only need one set of dishes and toss the rest, or you only need 3 pans and toss the rest. If you have 5 round cake pans and they bring you joy because you love to bake, and you have a recipe that calls for 5 round cakes that you make every year, whatever the reason, if it sparks joy for you and you love having them in your home and it serves you, keep the 5 round cake pans. You can apply the KonMari method in tidying up around your home any time of year, but I think it really does fit perfectly within January, as this often is a time associated with resets and clarity, or just being more intentional around what we're doing and what we want to set out to do throughout the year. Okay, putting those things aside, let's get tactical. For those of you who do have an open floor plan in your home, when we talk about the kitchen, a lot of times it's no longer just the kitchen. There are so many other items and categories that are now housed within this space. There's pantry and food storage containers. There's craft supplies. There's books. There's backpacks and shoes and lunch containers and papers. Oh my gosh, the number of papers, like school flyers, calendars, homework handouts. Like, this is a true list of things that you can find in my kitchen space. And you wonder why this space carries such a mental weight and an emotional one at that. Like, you think about it, the kitchen really does absorb everyone's stuff, and it's where we are usually congregating when we're all together. Let's apply a practical framework to how we can take Marie Kondo's approach, the KonMari method, and apply it to our kitchen. One of the things I'd recommend you do first is figure out what your intention is behind this reset. In essence, define the why before you begin. Is it that you want the space to be more functional? Is it that you want it to feel more inviting? I'll share my personal why with you, and it really is twofold. I wanted this space to feel both more calm and functional. Our entire space at this point in the year just feels completely disorganized. Things are just in piles or they're mismatched. You'll open cabinets and not really be able to see everything that's in them. I have items of the same category, but they're in 2 different places within the kitchen, so I don't really have a good idea of what all I have. So this really was both form and function that I was trying to solve for. The other reason alongside of that was that I felt like I have things, different plates or cups or servingware, things I know that I have, but they're tucked away in a cabinet to where I can't easily see or access them in order to enjoy them more. And I want to be able to use them more. We're at a point on a personal note where we're starting to divvy up some of the home and the kitchen items that my mom had. And let me tell you, that woman had a lot. Like, she loved, truly enjoyed entertaining and cooking for people and making her home a gathering space for neighbors and friends. And so there's a lot to go through. And I really felt the need going into the new year to first and foremost take inventory of what I had, what I don't need more of, and what I truly want when I think about what I would like to inherit of hers and bring into our home in North Carolina. I really wanted to be intentional about not just taking something only to, once again, store it away and never enjoy it. I don't want it to sit in an attic or in the back of a cabinet somewhere for years before it sees the light of day. So again, just be mindful of what you want to get out of it and how it's going to help support you. So we're tidying by category, not by cabinet. This method advises you to always think about things in terms of category, not place. So some of the big relevant categories in this scenario, I realize a kitchen is a place, but the categories within that place could be things like food. So your pantry, your fridge, your freezer. Then there's cooking utensils and tools. So think about items like your cutting boards, your knives, your electronic equipment like a blender or a Cuisinart. It's that meat thermometer or that vegetable peeler sitting in the back of your drawer. Then you have pots, pans, and bakeware. And even within bakeware, don't forget about those smaller, probably less frequently used items like cookie cutters and baking weights and pie tarts. All of that falls within this category. There's dishes and serving pieces. Then there's the bucket of linens. And I would group things here like kitchen towels, washcloths, aprons, oven mitts. All of that fits within this category. Then we have paper and miscellaneous overflow, and then kids' gear. So hopefully this gives you a framework in mind of how to start to group categories within your kitchen space. And you may have a few more categories of items within that space that you'd add to this list. Again, within our kitchen, I would include our mudroom here and all of the items that it entails. Our mudroom is that space in between our kitchen and our garage where we're dropping off coats and shoes and backpacks as we walk in the door from school or from work before entering the house. So it's situated right there off the kitchen between that space. And I was tackling those categories alongside of it. It's really interesting to see as you start to go through this process how your frame of mind starts to work around larger categories. So not just looking at one cookbook, but looking at that one cookbook in relationship to all the books in the house. The third thing that you're going to do, and once you're ready to start with a specific category, is to take everything within that category out. Yes, everything. Take it all out and lay it in one spot. So if we're going through dishes and servingware, you are pulling it all out. The fine china you maybe inherited from your grandmother or got as a wedding gift or thrifted from that antique shop, that's coming out alongside the plates you use every day. And the point here is that you want to be able to see the full volume of what you have, because often when we're able to see the full volume of what we have, that's the biggest wake-up call of all. Step 4, once we have everything laid out and in the open, the KonMari method advises you to, quote, keep only the things that speak to your heart. Then take the plunge and discard the rest. So this is where you'd go through the exercise of taking each item one by one. Maybe you'd hold it in your hands, assuming it's small enough to do that. And you ask yourself, does this spark joy? So in simple terms, the KonMari method would say, if it sparks joy for you, keep it. If not, dispose of it. Because Marie Kondo says we should be choosing what we want to keep, not what we want to get rid of. And while that may sound so simple and maybe even silly to a certain extent, I really like looking at cleaning up and organizing in this way because it's so much more of a positive perspective. We're choosing to hold on to the things that bring us happiness and disposing of the things that don't make us happy. What I think may be helpful, though, here in this instance of a kitchen reset is to reframe this notion of joy for practical items, right? Like you may be thinking, Julia, holding this vegetable peeler in my hand does not spark joy, but I need a vegetable peeler and I do use it. So let's reframe it for this exercise. And perhaps you ask yourself instead, do I enjoy using this? Does this support how we eat now or how we want to eat? Would I buy this again today? Those are some questions of how you might kind of reframe that notion of does this spark joy when going through these categories. Something that I think is also of importance to mention here is giving yourself permission to let go of certain things. And one of the things that comes to mind are things that you received as a gift. And I think a lot of people, myself included, feel guilt around letting go of anything that was given to them as a present. I am not going to tell you whether you should get rid of that coffee mug your mom gave you 5 years ago or if you should keep it. That is for you to decide. But I do just want to give you that little food for thought of it's okay to let go of things that were gifted to you if they no longer serve a purpose or bring you joy. So whether you agree with it or not, Marie Kondo in her book said something to the effect of, the purpose of the gift is for the giver to let you know that they were thinking of you and they wanted to do something for you. It's the thought behind the gift, right? Once you receive the gift, the job has been done. The thought has been conveyed. The feeling of the intention behind that gift has been bestowed upon you. At that point, you shouldn't feel the need to keep the gift any longer. if it doesn't bring you joy. And so that may be provocative or controversial. It may be something that's a little bit hard for you to get behind, depending on what the gift is or who gave it to you. I completely get that. I just wanted a chance to give you that little nugget of something to sit on. If there are certain gifts for you that you're struggling to determine, do I keep it or do I dispose of it? Other items to give yourself permission to let go of might also include aspirational cooking items. Let me tell you how many of those I have acquired over the past few years. This may also be duplicates of items. Do you really need 2 vegetable peelers? Or there are those just in case clutter items. So an example of this, a true example of what I came across in my kitchen, are like the plastic plates and utensils that my kids would use when they were in their toddler years. And I have kept an entire stack of like 10 plastic plates just in case we had small kids over. And it's rare that we have small kids over. Like maybe once or twice a year, we have kids younger than my own that are in the house. And so again, where I netted out was that I kept 2 plastic toddler plates and a couple utensils, and I got rid of the rest. So I realized that may not be exactly how Marie Kondo would advise me, but that's where I ended up. What I think is really kind of cool about Marie Kondo's book and in reading it is that kind of adjacent to the art and the magic of tidying up and reorganizing your home, there's so much kind of insight and philosophy around life. And it shows in a lot of the research and observation and practice that she has put in her craft of tidying up and watching how it is related to the human psyche and emotion. So, for example, on the topics of sentimental items, she asks, when you think about your future, is it worth keeping mementos of things that you would otherwise forget? And then she continues to say, no matter how wonderful things used to be, we cannot live in the past. The joy and excitement we feel here and now are more important. And I just sat with that for a moment and thought, wow, like taking that notion of sentimental objects as you're going through them and trying to determine, do they bring me joy or how do I part with them if they no longer do? And to just bring it back on a real personal note, this hit home for me, that philosophy that the joy and excitement we feel here and now is most important when it comes to the things that we keep in our home or that we take. And it goes back to that exercise I was talking about of how do I make more space and determine what things from my mom's home and from her kitchen would I like to bring into my home now? And so it helps to put that framework in mind for me from a sentimental place and really choosing those things of hers that bring me and my family, my husband, my kids, that bring us joy now. The things that we can use of hers now to remind us of her, to honor her, and to bring her into our everyday life and moments. So I liked that a lot, and I just wanted to share it here for what it's worth. The other point that I wanted to mention here as you're going through this exercise, try to avoid over-organizing before you're done editing. And this was sometimes really hard for me, or I would find myself doing it without realizing that I was doing it. I'd be going through and starting to edit all of the different cups and glasses that we had in the kitchen. And I found that I would have this tendency to immediately start kind of reconfiguring my cabinet space as to how I was going to put them all back in before I was even done determining which cups to keep and which were no longer needed. So something to keep in mind as well. Now that I have walked you through both the general philosophies behind the KonMari method and then how we can practically apply it to the kitchen in those categories, I wanted to share what my experience has been since tidying up. And it's not been that long. We're about a couple weeks in, but I have noticed about 3 things in particular. I do feel a lot calmer in this space since tidying up. And it's not that there aren't still odds and ends lying on the kitchen counter or the table from day to day, but I think it's subconsciously knowing that the items behind the scenes, those items that are hidden from broad daylight behind cabinet drawers and kitchen drawers, are now in a state where they are in their proper place and they are organized in a manner in which I can easily see and access them. And when I need to go to look for something, I know where to find it. I also took our wedding china and our crystal and the silverware that I inherited from my mom. And I brought those things out and put them in a place where I can more easily access them and use them every day. Because that's one of the things that I want to be better at, is using our quote unquote finer things during meals throughout the week. I am totally bought into this idea of, why do we have to wait for a special occasion to use things when it would bring me just as much happiness and more immediate happiness to use them on a regular basis? Probably just the mental clarity that I've kept these things and I know they bring me joy and I have them to use has helped a lot. Secondly, probably what I found the most interesting is that the space that was tidied up as a part of this kitchen reset was our mudroom. And as I told you, that is the space between our kitchen and garage. So it's very much a transition space between these 2 points in our house. It's the first thing I see when I come home and walk in the back door. It's the last thing I see when I leave. And it was a major contributor, if not the primary contributor, to the kitchen chaos and my frustration. I mean, I will be super honest with you. There are times where you couldn't even see the bottom of the floor in certain spaces because it's just buried layers deep in shoes and socks or coats and construction paper and craft items and book bags. I would clean this space every so often and have it all organized and tidy, only to have it look like a tornado ran through it within a week or two. And so what was interesting is that in tidying up by category, it naturally then encompassed several items in this space that ended up clearing out the mudroom. So crafts, for example, I got all of the craft items out of that space. It took all of the coats and hats and scarves and put them in the coat closet in one organized, contained space out of the mudroom. And it's interesting because we like how clean and tidy and cleared out the mudroom is. This is my final point. I have noticed that we are starting to go to extra lengths to keep the mudroom looking tidy. When the kids come home from school, we're not just like dropping our backpacks and our coats where we stand. I find that we are taking the coats and hanging them up back in the coat closet. We are taking the backpacks and we are putting them on the bench or hanging them up on the hook. And so it's been nice to kind of see this natural progression of how we have gone the extra mile to keep this space in particular tidy. I think when you go through the process of choosing what you want to keep in your home and knowing that you have kept items that bring you joy and happiness, you naturally find yourself more aware that those items are there and then also more inclined to want to take care of them and to notice and appreciate them when you use them. And as we step into this new year, I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. This isn't about doing more. It's about making more room for the things that bring you joy. If this episode has sparked a little flame of motivation to tackle your own home, let me know how you applied the KonMari method to your own kitchen and what items spark joy for you. You can tag me on Instagram at Julia the Home Cook or send me a DM. And if this episode resonated with you, be sure to take a second and hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss another conversation. Equally as important and much appreciated, share the episode with someone you know who has mentioned wanting to get his or her life in order and their home reset in the new year. Maybe this can help them. I can't wait for you guys to join me again here on the podcast. I am now officially going to publish 2 episodes a month, every other Tuesday, and I have some great topics and guests lined up for you in the coming weeks. So until we chat again, take care, Happy New Year, and eat well. Thank you all for listening to the episode today. If you find value in these stories, please share it with someone who would appreciate it too. A big part of why I wanted to start this podcast is to build a community of food lovers and home cooks alike. You taking less than a minute out of your day to share an episode, subscribe to the podcast, or leave a review is the greatest form of validation and means so much because it is helping us to build that community and connection with one another. Remember, a good story is meant to be shared. Until next time, eat well.